Again, it's a joy to be with you all and celebrate Mass here. I'm very grateful to Father Brian, your pastor, for giving me the permission to celebrate these Masses, and so he could also go visit his family. So I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for you and my Bishop David and Bishop Chad and Fairbanks for giving me the opportunity and assisting me to do what I've done for the last 6 months. I've enjoyed it very much. I was in charge of the cathedral, Sacred Heart Cathedral in Fairbanks, but also half of my time is going out into the little bitty villages, the Athabascan Indians or the Yupik Inuit Eskimos in the villages. I made about 11 different villages, and I enjoyed that greatly. Many of the places I went is the first time they'd had Mass in 5-6 months or so, because they just get 2 or 3 a year when a priest is available. And so I enjoyed that too greatly. I hope to have a little presentation about my experiences, the stories, the taste, the different foods I had, maybe toward a couple of weeks from now or so, and hope you'll hear about it through the email. The strangest thing I ate was muktuk. Muktuk is whale blubber, and people ask me, what does it taste like? And my response is always the same. When you go home today, before you get in your car, chew on a tire. and hope that it has no flavor, because a real delicacy among the Yupik Eskimo is that you take it and you bury it in the ground for 6 months till it rots, and then you serve it. But the strangest thing that I tried everything, but I tried this, but they take 2 pieces of bread and they take Crisco, lard, and they spread it on like butter. They call it white butter. Puts on the blubber, they said, so for the winter. So I couldn't go that. But good to be here with y'all today. You know, of all the liturgical seasons that the church celebrates, Christmas is my favorite. Christmas is the Christmas season that we're in, and for a few more days, a week or so, is my favorite time of the year in the life of the church. Although my favorite liturgical Mass is Holy Thursday, that happens in Holy Week, Christmas is my favorite season, even though the poinsettias are not orange again. At least they don't have some crimson in here with that. But it's my favorite time for lots of different reasons. The beauty of Christmas, the traditions of Christmas, the carols, the singing, the words, scriptures, everything. But one other reason I love the manger scene. And I'm thankful to St. Francis of Assisi who came up with this idea. But I love the manger scene. Because I love that part of our Catholic tradition of having images, either plaster or wood or the different paintings that have had. And that's one of the reasons I commissioned all those paintings. Fill our church with those images of our faith, those men and women who've gone before us in faith as saints and that we are called to follow. And it's also but one of the reasons that I'm nervous about all these images is that I think it can be a temptation. Just a temptation, not always fallen into, but a temptation among Catholic people that we make all these saints and we reduce them down to just the image. And I always tell people that Mary and Joseph, the saints, they're not plastic figures. They're not paint and canvas. They were real people. They really existed as human beings, just like us, except for baby Jesus, who's God, and Mary, who's sinless. But in everything else, they were just like us. Mary changed diapers. She did laundry. She nursed Jesus. She had to cook. She had to clean the house. I don't know if they did ironing, but she probably did ironing. All those things that a mom does with kids, she did. Joseph, like many men and women now, Joseph had to get up every morning early and have Mary make a breakfast, make food, and then he went to work every day, except the Sabbath. He worked with his hands. He probably cut himself, bruised. If he didn't go to work, Mary and baby Jesus died. He had to work every day of his life, just like many of us do. They're real people. And so I think it's important for us, as any way we can, is to look at the beauty that they are, but move away from the image and discover the real person, whoever they might be, because they lived and breathed just like us. And that's the beauty in them, the real beauty in them. That's why I've always encouraged you, when I was your pastor, and I encourage the people in Fairbanks, but even though I'm not your pastor, I'm still going to encourage you. New Year's Day is a day and a half from now, whatever it is, so many hours. Pick a saint between now and New Year's who is going to walk with you through the new year, into the new year, through the whole year. And call on that saint every day. It can be a saint of your profession. It can be a saint of your heritage. It can be a saint of whoever, or just somebody you like, or something that you really need help with in the new year. Whatever that might be, well, pick that saint. If you got cancer, you might want to invite Peregrine to kind of walk with you throughout the year. That makes the people that we honor with images real. Because the saints want to be a part of our lives. They don't want to just be a pretty picture. They want to be a real man or woman who attaches themselves to you to help you, to walk with you, to lead you to faith, in even better faith. So, do that. And it's just like the Holy Family. The Holy Family on this feast day can teach us something. Not the image, the real man and woman and baby. And they can reveal something to us that can make our lives better and make our world better, make our family better. Now, I could pick 1,000 different virtues that they want us to follow because they're all so virtuous. But the one I want to share today for myself, and I invite you if you'd like to, is the virtue that they lived and exhibited of self-sacrifice, of sacrificial living. Because they all sacrificed, every one of them. Joseph had to sacrifice his pride when he got embarrassed. Joseph was embarrassed by Mary, and the rumors fled through his little village. Did you hear about Joseph? The woman he's going to marry is pregnant, and he ain't the dad. He was embarrassed. He had to sacrifice his pride because he was a righteous man, a good man in the community. He had to give up that sacrifice. He had to sacrifice that. Mary, she had to sacrifice her common sense. Everything Mary knew about being a woman, about being a mother, about getting pregnant, she had been taught by the other women in her life. Her cousins, her aunts, mama, grandma. And then this angel comes and says, you're going to get pregnant. Not in the natural way. Not in the way that all other women in the entire eternity of life have gotten pregnant. Now, Mary is 13 or 14 years old. That couldn't have made much sense, because her entire experience of motherhood was formed in the natural world. And she had to give that up, sacrifice that, to trust God. Baby Jesus, Christ, who took flesh in the person of Jesus, had to sacrifice all his power, all his authority. He who was dependent on no one as the second person of the Trinity became dependent on everyone when he became a defenseless baby who depended on Mary and Joseph and others to keep him alive, to feed him, to clothe him, to clean him, to teach him. He sacrificed all that power. God the Father, who's not really a part of the Holy Family in one sense, God the Father, for this to happen, sacrificed his Son. Now, mamas and daddies, I'm not a mama or a daddy, and I never will be. Mama and daddies, think about you having to sacrifice your child to death. That's what God the Father did. And their sacrifice didn't benefit them at all. It was always for somebody else, for us. This scene, this miracle, this sacrifice benefits us and all humanity, with the hope that the grave is not the final word in our stories, that we live on, and hopefully live on in heaven with God. So the beauty of the Holy Family today, at least for me, is the call, the challenge, the revelation of the beauty of a life lived in sacrifice for another or for something good. Because sacrifice always blesses, is always grace-filled. It always makes somebody else's life better. Self-sacrifice, true sacrifice, always is so that somebody else can be of an advantage. I think about all my own parents, but also so many moms and dads here that I've experienced, or in other parishes, in Fairbanks and in the villages. Parents who would sacrifice everything for their child if it was called upon them to do so. Even giving up their life for their child. I think of parishioners who I've known and been blessed to know, again here and in many other places, who sacrifice greatly for their own parish, who share themselves in beautiful different ways for St. Benedict or Sacred Heart or whatever the parish might be, for the rest of us and all of us. Fairbanks has two huge Fort Wainwright, huge Army base, Eielson Air Force Base. They're huge, lots of soldiers, and they're getting a lot of more squadrons of F somethings, whatever they are, F something, the highest number that there are, and they're getting a lot more soldiers. And there's tons of soldiers. Two-thirds of my parish were either active or retired military, or their families. And I think about all of the sacrifices for 200 plus years of women and men for their country, for me, for you. We honored them on Veterans Day, and I told those who are not military, I posed the question. They wondered what their life would be like if men and women hadn't been soldiers, Air Force, Navy, whatever, and over the last 200 plus years fought evil and kept the peace. If you thought about what your life would be like, it would be drastically different. Probably, if they hadn't have done that, first off, you wouldn't be here today. You'd probably be working at a job picked by the government, telling you this is what you will do as your work until you retire or die. All of us who are baptized, we probably wouldn't be, or at least a majority of us would not be baptized. I would not be a priest, or if I was, I'd probably be in jail, prison. If you did want to practice your faith, you'd have to practice it in secret. And God help you if you get caught. Because the two great evils, at least in this century, Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, saw religion as an enemy. And they did everything they could to destroy it and to stamp it out. The great cathedrals of Russia were turned into barns and places where you stored manure as a way of saying, this is what your religion is. And the only reason why we didn't get conquered is because there was some man and some woman willing to give their life in defense of what we enjoy. Self-sacrifice always makes somebody else better. It is always to their good. It is always, true sacrifice, always grace-filled and a blessing. I think about how my life would be if my parents had not sacrificed for me. Or how my life would have been here as pastor if so many would not have sacrificed for the parish. I think about the people in the villages that I went to. And the villages are subsistence. If they don't kill it, catch it, or pick it, they don't eat it. Unless they got a lot of money, and very few people have a lot of money. Because, again, in the villages, they have little stores, but like a dozen eggs is $20. A gallon of milk, $18. A little bitty watermelon that I really wanted but I didn't buy was $39. So they don't, that's not what they go out and get it or catch it, kill it. When I was there in the villages, they would always, because they knew I had to eat too, and we didn't have a big budget, and they would bring me seal, caribou, moose, muktuk. But I ate it because I was told you as a raised that way. Or the day that the two boys had killed 2 geese that day. And they wanted to show father. And then when they were leaving, they gave me one. And luckily they had gutted it and cleaned it. And all I had to do is put it on the fire. Again, because he needs something too. It's not just about what I need. And when they sacrificed, I knew quite well, then that meant their plates were a little smaller because they're extremely poor villages with not much. Again, sacrifice, and so parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews, whoever the little people are in your life, or not so little people, teach them to be sacrificial. Teach them about the joy of doing for somebody else and how that blesses someone else and ultimately does bless us. And how the world and our lives, my life, our family's life, are better when we become a person who so easily says, yes, I'll say no to myself. Even if that means I got to be without a little bit. so that I can say yes to something so much greater than I am. You know, they talk about the greatest generation. And it was a great generation. Although, like all generations, greatest generations can be tempted to be selfish too. But the greatest generation is dying. It's getting less and less every day. In, 10 years, there won't be one. At least that generation. So we have to be the greatest generation. So may I, and all of us, look to the Holy Family and the great sacrifice that each one of them offered. And look at them not as little plastic figures, but as real men and women whose sacrifice made my life better, made your life better. Means I might go to heaven if God's grace is generous to me. And let us learn from them and live as a sacrificial people. Because it is through sacrifice that any family becomes holy. Let us stand and pray together the